Climb aboard the train and join us as we go back to Scotland. We've got a heck of a weekend ahead of us. We're going to see Stirling Castle. We're going to see how they brought hydropower to the Highlands. We're going to see a historic distillery. We're going to see the Kelpies. And we're going to wrap it up in Edinburgh with the Royal Yacht Britannia and plenty more. It's a January morning in Stirling. This is the off-season and the streets are largely empty, with a few quiet market stalls. We're heading across town this morning to see Stirling Castle. The castle hill affords a nice view across the valley to the Wallace Monument. Built between 1861 and 1869, the monument commemorates William Wallace's 1297 victory over the English in the Battle of Stirling Bridge, made most famous perhaps by the movie Braveheart. Another contemporary monument is located opposite, the Star Pyramid, memorializing those who lost their lives defending civil and religious liberty in Scotland. Okay, let's head inside. The most striking feature inside the castle is the gleaming yellow Great Hall built in 1503 by the Scottish King James IV. And we got to learn all about it on a free tour.
Here at the time of any of the Stuart kings, well, that was Robert II, Bruce's grandson, or King James IV who built the hall, James V who built the palace. This would be a busy place. You'd have more of a kind of atmosphere of a kind of marketplace, this area.
Inside the Great Hall, our tour continues.
James IV, so he adds a lot of Scottish castles. He builds this one first in 1503. It takes about 6 years altogether. By 1512, he's completed Edinburgh's one.
Unfortunately, we were a little short on time this morning, so we had to break away from the tour and check out the palace apartments ourselves, quickly, before moving on. Inside, the apartments are decorated as though they were being lived in today, with actors in period costumes, maintaining character and telling you about what's going on. After wrapping up at the castle, we headed back across town to catch the train to the little village of Pitlochry. We came to Pitlochry for a distillery tour, but we got here a little early and with some time to spare, we went down to check out the dam and fish ladder.
So we're at Pitlochry Dam. We learned from the informational signs that until the 1940s, the overwhelming majority of people in the Highlands didn't have electricity. This dam was part of an early scheme in the 40s and 50s to build hydroelectric power to bring electricity to the Highlands. The dam itself was built in 1951, and the fish ladder was built just a year later in 1952. And they've been counting fish going up it ever since. There's one particular item that American men who go to visit the United Kingdom, and especially Scotland, tend to buy. And I had convinced myself that I was not going to do it. So much for that.
There's a lot of distilleries in this area, but we only had time to tour one, so I decided on Blair Athol, largely for its depth of history. Located on the Altdore Bourne stream, whiskey has been made on this site since 1798. After the mechanisms of fermentation and distillation, and my very favorite part of the tour, the on-site water source.
When it comes down, when we wanted to go into the distillery over that feeder there, they bring this dam down here. The dam comes down and blocks the water off.
We admired some exceedingly old casks in the bonded warehouse before our tasting began.
You might like it with water, or you might like it and you might not. This is quite a delicate one.
At the end, Jamie got to fill a bottle from a special cask. The next morning we set off to Edinburgh by way of the Kelpies. Now, on public transportation, the Kelpies are actually a little bit tricky to get to, but we made our way. Built just 10 years ago, these 100-foot-tall sculptures have become iconic and are definitely worth a visit. Then, after another healthy walk, bus ride, and train ride, we're arriving in Edinburgh. We're staying immediately opposite the Portrait Gallery, so we thought we'd check that out. Many great figures of Scottish history are represented here in a particularly cool building, with interesting features like this library, where you can look at, among other things, mildly gruesome death masks. Paintings celebrate regal individuals. Others tell stories, some more explicit than others. The place we're staying has a little kitchen, so we decided to save a penny and do a little bit of self-catering, picking up dinner and breakfast tomorrow at the local Sainsbury's.
Good morning. Here we are in our self-catering kitchen, and today I'm trying to unpeel it. I'm gonna make haggis and eggs for breakfast.
Breakfast was, you might say, interesting. After breakfast, we caught a tram down to the waterfront to go see the Queen's Royal Yacht, the Britannia, which, oddly enough, is accessed through a shopping mall. After a brief display of artifacts and history, you get your first glimpse of this impressive ship. A self-guided audio tour helps make sense of what you're seeing. The stately quarters of the admiral who commanded the ship. The great dining room, full of artifacts given to the royal family. And intimate spaces where the Queen and her family could feel at home. After touring the ship, we had lunch at the Roseleaf Cafe, a restaurant worth mentioning both for its character and for its delicious food.
So I got the club sandwich, which is phenomenal, and the skink, which is like the fish soup, and it's just unbelievable. It's so good.
Next stop is Holyrood Palace, which is in active use by the current royal family, and as such, no photos are allowed inside. So unfortunately, you're gonna have to make do with this shot of a courtyard and your imagination. Outside, the abbey ruins seemed almost swallowed up by the palace. Like all weekends, this one seemed to end too soon. We wrapped it up and headed home.